There's also news tonight, first broken on our air by Richard Engel, that Hamas is now stating that it has between 200 and 250 hostages in Gaza. Hamas also releasing a statement that they are looking to release some of the people who they took hostage, people they describe as foreign nationals, who they say are being held not as hostages but as their guests. They say they are looking to release them when field conditions permit their release. We don't know what that means, but this is an important advance, at least in the story, of what has become of these, again, 200, maybe more people who are being held by Hamas. NBC News chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel tonight is reporting from near the Israel-Gaza border. Richard, I'm happy to lay eyes on you. Thanks for staying up to join us. What do you make of the statement from Hamas? Why they're doing it? What do you think it means?
Well, I think it's very significant, Rachel. I think it means that there's movement on this issue after hearing nothing from Hamas. Hamas said that it is holding 200 hostages. It said that other groups, however, in the Gaza Strip are holding more hostages. So they're talking about Hamas with 200, the military wing of Hamas, and then another 50 or more, according to the spokesman of Hamas, inside the Gaza Strip total. And among those 200 that Hamas says it is holding, it says there are an unspecified number of foreign nationals and that it is willing to hand them over, that it wants to hand them over, that it doesn't believe that they are party to this conflict and that it has no issue with them and it will hand them over when the conditions are right. As you said, what does it mean when the conditions are right? But also a few hours ago, just slightly before Hamas issued that statement, Iran's foreign minister said that Hamas is expressing a willingness to release hostages when Israel, or if Israel, stops its airstrikes into Gaza. So we're hearing similar messages both from Iran and from Hamas about releasing hostages, talking about field conditions at the same time. So there is movement on this issue. The issue is, however, they're only talking about those hostages who are dual nationals or foreigners. And they also said that any people who were taken, any hostages that were taken that were fighting, even if they are Americans or French, or they didn't mention nationalities, but foreign nationals, but were serving in the Israeli military or serving in a fighting capacity, they wouldn't be considered for this arrangement. They would be considered combatants and they would be treated like Israelis. So it seems what Hamas is trying to do is create a division, create a wedge to say that its fight is with Israel and Israel alone and not with the United States, not with the rest of the world. And this comes amid a lot of international diplomacy, a lot of efforts by the United States and other countries and its allies to try and get movement on this issue and to try and get those hostages out, hopefully just as a start.
And Richard, I don't want to get too far ahead of the story or to imagine sort of too much nitty-gritty here that we can't get at, but it seems to me like even if they are trying to establish some sort of divide between different types of hostages, the release of any hostages is both good for those people who could then potentially be saved, but also potentially strategically important for getting all or more or potentially all of the hostages out, because presumably the people released could help in terms of finding the rest of them, couldn't they?
100%. You take the yes. If the Hamas is willing to give up hostages and not asking for any specific thing in return except for potentially even just a temporary halt in the bombings, we don't know exactly what Hamas is asking for. We're not party to those conversations between Hamas and different negotiators. But what they're publicly asking and what Iran is also suggesting is they're talking about a stop of the airstrikes. Then, yes, get those people out and then see what they know. See where they were taken. What is the mentality? How are they being treated? What do they know about the other hostages? Absolutely, they could lead to more intelligence, more leads, and provide tremendous relief to the hostages themselves who may be injured, absolutely terrified, and their families. I was a hostage myself in the Middle East, not by Hamas, but by another group. And I can tell you the amount of stress that it puts on the people who are taken and their families. So absolutely, it would be good for them and potentially good for the rest.
And Richard, I was interested to hear you say that you were in touch with people involved in a number of Arab countries and who have been working on trying to negotiate something, trying to make some contact, some progress on the hostage issue. We heard from a hostage's family member today about having been contacted by people in touch with the Red Cross and other nonprofit and NGO groups that are trying to work on this issue. Do you sense that, I mean, from what you're hearing from Israeli officials and American officials and other people in the region, do you think this is a live thing that's being worked on right now? Is this something that it's not just, individual forays and individual statements, but there's actual person-to-person negotiation happening here and that we might get movement soon?
Yes. There is motion on this, and there are contacts that are happening, and they are happening in real time. That is certainly the case. There is a lot of effort focused on this. There is effort focused on this around the world. I don't believe this statement was issued in isolation, that it was something that Hamas just threw out there. Yeah, this is a concerted international effort, and I believe it's the result of some diplomacy. Now, what will happen with it? Will it come true? There's so much that can go wrong here. This is still an active war zone. You can hear where I am right now. There's the loud buzzing of Israeli drones overhead. We have been hearing some continued strikes into Gaza. So there is an opening, there is movement here, but there is no guarantee of success at this stage. But to go back to your original question, was this the result of some concerted international effort? I believe it was.
Richard Engel, chief foreign correspondent for NBC News. Richard, you are never allowed to be taken hostage again, and you must stay safe. All of us aged many decades over those days that you were gone, my friend. Thank you for joining us.